Welcome. Today we are looking at genetics at an advanced level. This is topic 1 in your SS3 biology series. This is one of the most important topics in your examinations. Genetics is a key topic that requires thorough understanding. Pay close attention. Let us begin. First, let me explain what genetics is. Genetics is the study of heredity and variation. Heredity is the transmission of traits from parents to offspring. Variation is the differences between individuals of the same species. Genetics explains why offspring resemble their parents. It also explains why they are not identical. Genetics is a fundamental branch of biology. It helps us understand how traits are passed on. It helps us understand the basis of evolution. It has many applications in agriculture and medicine. Understanding genetics is essential for understanding life itself. Now, let me explain the basic concepts in genetics. The first concept is genes. Genes are units of heredity. They are segments of DNA. They carry instructions for making proteins. Proteins determine traits. The second concept is chromosomes. Chromosomes are structures in the nucleus. They contain DNA. Humans have 46 chromosomes. They have 23 pairs. One pair is the sex chromosomes. The third concept is alleles. Alleles are different forms of a gene. For example, the gene for eye colour has alleles for brown and blue. The fourth concept is genotype. Genotype is the genetic makeup of an organism. It is the combination of alleles. The fifth concept is phenotype. Phenotype is the physical appearance of an organism. It is the expression of the genotype. The sixth concept is homozygous. An organism is homozygous if it has two identical alleles. The seventh concept is heterozygous. An organism is heterozygous if it has two different alleles. Now let me explain Gregor Mendel. Gregor Mendel is the father of genetics. He was an Austrian monk. He conducted experiments on pea plants. He studied 7 traits. These included flower colour, seed shape, and plant height. Mendel used controlled crosses. He observed patterns of inheritance. He formulated the laws of inheritance. His work was not recognised until after his death. He is now considered the founder of genetics. Now, let me explain Mendel's first law. Mendel's first law is the law of segregation. This law states that alleles separate during gamete formation. Each gamete receives one allele from each pair. This occurs during meiosis. The alleles are randomly distributed. This explains why offspring have a 50% chance of inheriting each allele. The law of segregation explains the 3-to-1 ratio in monohybrid crosses. Mendel observed this ratio in his experiments. Now, let me explain Mendel's second law. Mendel's second law is the law of independent assortment. This law states that alleles of different genes assort independently. This occurs during gamete formation. The distribution of alleles for one gene does not affect the distribution for another gene. This applies to genes on different chromosomes. It explains the 9-to-3 to 3-to-1 ratio in dihybrid crosses. Mendel observed this ratio in his experiments. The law of independent assortment increases genetic variation. Now let me explain monohybrid inheritance. Monohybrid inheritance involves one gene. It involves 2 alleles. An example is flower colour in pea plants. Purple is dominant, white is recessive. A cross between pure breeding purple and white plants produces all purple offspring. This is the first filial generation, the F1 generation. When F1 plants are crossed, The F2 generation shows a 3:1 ratio, 3 purple to 1 white. This is the phenotypic ratio. The genotypic ratio is 1 to 2 to 1, 1 homozygous dominant, 2 heterozygous, 1 homozygous recessive. This demonstrates the law of segregation. Now let me explain dihybrid inheritance. Dihybrid inheritance involves 2 genes. It involves 4 alleles. An example is seed shape and seed colour in pea plants. Round is dominant, wrinkled is recessive, yellow is dominant, green is recessive. A cross between pure breeding round yellow and wrinkled green plants produces all round yellow offspring. This is the F1 generation. When F1 plants are crossed, the F2 generation shows a 9 to 3 to 3 to 1 ratio. 9 round yellow, 3 round green, 3 wrinkled yellow, 1 wrinkled green. This demonstrates the law of independent assortment. Now, let me explain incomplete dominance. Incomplete dominance is a type of inheritance. Neither allele is completely dominant. The heterozygote shows an intermediate phenotype. An example is flower colour in snapdragons. Red and white are the alleles. The heterozygote is pink. This is a blend of red and white. Incomplete dominance shows a 1 to 2 to 1 phenotypic ratio. This differs from complete dominance. Complete dominance shows a 3 to 1 phenotypic ratio. Now, let me explain codominance. Codominance is another type of inheritance. Both alleles are expressed equally. The heterozygote shows both phenotypes. An example is blood type in humans. The A and B alleles are codominant. The AB blood type has both A and B antigens. Codominance shows a 1 to 2 to 1 phenotypic ratio. This is similar to incomplete dominance. However, the phenotypes are different. In incomplete dominance, the phenotype is intermediate. In codominance, both phenotypes are expressed. Now let me explain multiple alleles. Multiple alleles are more than 2 alleles for a gene. An example is blood type in humans. There are 3 alleles, A, B and O. A and B are codominant. O is recessive. The possible genotypes are AA, AO, BB, BO, AB and OO. The phenotypes are A, B, A, B and O. Multiple alleles increase genetic variation. They are common in populations. Now let me explain sex-linked inheritance. Sex-linked inheritance involves genes on sex chromosomes. In humans, the sex chromosomes are X and Y. Females are XX, males are XY. The X chromosome has many genes. The Y chromosome has few genes. Sex-linked traits are associated with the X chromosome. An example is haemophilia. Haemophilia is a blood clotting disorder. It is recessive. It is carried on the X chromosome. Males are more affected. They have only one X chromosome. Females are carriers. They have 2 X chromosomes. Another example is colourblindness. Colourblindness is also X-linked. Males are more affected. Sex-linked inheritance follows specific patterns. It does not follow Mendelian ratios. Now let me explain sex-limited and sex-influenced traits. Sex-limited traits are expressed in one sex only. An example is milk production in mammals. It is expressed only in females. Beard growth is expressed only in males. Sex-influenced traits are expressed in both sexes. However, the expression differs. An example is baldness in humans. It is dominant in males. It is recessive in females. These traits are influenced by hormones. Now, let me explain linkage. Linkage is the tendency of genes to be inherited together. This occurs when genes are on the same chromosome. Linked genes do not assort independently. They are inherited as a group. Crossing over can break linkage. Crossing over is the exchange of genetic material between homologous chromosomes. It occurs during meiosis. It creates new combinations of alleles. Linkage reduces genetic variation. Crossing over increases genetic variation. Now, let me explain the importance of genetics. Genetics is important for several reasons. First, it explains heredity. It explains why offspring resemble parents. Second, it explains variation. It explains why individuals are different. Third, it supports evolution. Genetic variation is the raw material for evolution. Fourth, it supports agriculture. Genetics is used in plant and animal breeding. It improves crop yields. It improves livestock. Fifth, it supports medicine. Genetics is used to diagnose and treat genetic diseases. It is used in genetic counselling. Sixth, it supports biotechnology. Genetics is used in genetic engineering. It produces genetically modified organisms. Now, let me explain genetic disorders. Genetic disorders are caused by mutations. Mutations are changes in DNA. They can be inherited. They can occur spontaneously. Examples of genetic disorders include sickle cell anemia. Sickle cell anemia is caused by a mutation in the hemoglobin gene. It affects red blood cells. It causes them to be sickle-shaped. This reduces oxygen transport. Cystic fibrosis is another genetic disorder. It is caused by a mutation in the CFTR gene. It affects the lungs and digestive system. Haemophilia is a blood clotting disorder. It is sex-linked. Down syndrome is a chromosomal disorder. It is caused by an extra chromosome 21. Genetic disorders are important in medicine. Now let me explain the human genome. The human genome is the complete set of genetic information. It is contained in 46 chromosomes. It has about 20,000 genes. The Human Genome Project was completed in 2003. It sequenced the entire human genome. This has advanced medicine. It has helped identify genes for diseases. It has enabled personalised medicine. Now, let me give you sample exam questions. Define genetics. Genetics is the study of heredity and variation. State Mendel's laws of inheritance. The law of segregation states that alleles separate during gamete formation. The law of independent assortment states that alleles of different genes assort independently. Distinguish between genotype and phenotype. Genotype is the genetic makeup. Phenotype is the physical appearance. Explain incomplete dominance. Incomplete dominance occurs when neither allele is completely dominant, and the heterozygote shows an intermediate phenotype. Explain sex-linked inheritance. Sex-linked inheritance involves genes on sex chromosomes, with males often more affected by recessive X-linked traits. Let me summarise. Genetics is the study of heredity and variation. Genes are units of heredity. Alleles are different forms of genes. Gregor Mendel formulated the laws of inheritance. The law of segregation and the law of independent assortment. Monohybrid inheritance involves one gene. Dihybrid inheritance involves two genes. Incomplete dominance shows an intermediate phenotype. Codominance shows both phenotypes. Multiple alleles involve more than two alleles. Sex-linked inheritance involves genes on sex chromosomes. Genetics is important in agriculture, medicine, and biotechnology. Practice these concepts. When you have them down, move to topic 2.